Breaking news. MS Now has just learned that FBI Director Kash Patel may be out of a job in the coming months. 3 people with knowledge of the situation say President Trump and his top aides have grown tired of Patel and the unflattering headlines he's been generating recently, including using a government jet to visit his girlfriend and enlisting a SWAT team as her security detail.
There's some fresh news coming in about FBI Director Kash Patel possibly losing his job soon. Apparently, President Trump and his top aides are losing patience with him, especially after all the negative press he's been attracting lately. It turns out he used a government jet to visit his girlfriend and even hired a SWAT team to act as her security detail. Definitely not the kind of headlines anyone wants. Now, according to sources, Patel is on shaky ground, and there's talk about him being replaced by Andrew Bailey before the year wraps up.
2023 interview with a challenge to the FBI and harsh words for Republicans in Congress for not getting the Epstein files out to the public. You began the sentence, everything you have direct control over, and then you stopped that sentence. You've released everything that you have direct control over?
And I have direct control over and can lawfully release. If you're not familiar with the court orders, that's not my fault.
Oh, I'm
Go
perfectly...
look at them.
This situation gets even more interesting when you factor in the ongoing push from Congress for the release of the Epstein files. These files are supposed to shed light on Jeffrey Epstein's connections and the investigation that surrounded him. Trump passed a law, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which was supposed to make sure the Justice Department and the FBI shared these documents within 30 days. But here's the catch. Patel has been telling Congress he can't make the files public because judges have ordered them to be kept confidential. He insists that court orders are binding his hands. However, federal judges have publicly contradicted this claim, stating that the government really should be the one to release these files and that the FBI has the power to disclose the records. When Congress pressed Patel on why he wasn't releasing the documents, their lawyers pointed out that he seems to be misinterpreting the court orders. It looks like he's taken a few specific document restrictions and spinning it into an excuse not to release anything at all.
We are releasing as much as legally allowed. That's why we went back to the courts.
How is that not legally allowed?
Sir, do you know how court orders work? Do you know how protective orders work?
Actually,
Do you know how
Mr.
sealing
Patel,
orders
I was
work?
a real prosecutor for 10 years. I know exactly how.
So I was a
court
fake one?
orders. And I want to understand what the court order prevents you from releasing witness statements that the FBI took.
That's a pretty bold move. And here's the kicker. When Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman called Patel out on his claims, Patel quipped, "Do you know how court orders work?" To which Goldman replied, "Yeah, I was a real prosecutor for 10 years. That exchange really highlights the tension surrounding this situation. Goldman laid it all out, explaining precisely what the court orders say and how Patel could release the files if he chose to. It was evident that Patel didn't really have a solid comeback because Goldman was spot on.
The former Attorney General of Missouri, who is acting now as co-deputy FBI director, along with Dan Bongino. And it's for all the reasons that you just said and others, the use of taxpayer resources, the flying his girlfriend around on the FBI jet.
But also the premature tweets, including related to the Charlie Kirk assassination and other investigations, that terrorist attack in Michigan, where Patel got out in front of the investigation and tweeted about the arrests before the rest of the government was ready for that to happen. So Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche of the Justice Department have been annoyed with Patel for a long time, although they've publicly denied it when others have reported it. And now it's increasingly clear that the White House is as well. Now are reporting this may actually enhance his job security, right? So it's hard to know exactly what's going to happen, but that is the reporting at this hour. Katie, yeah, no, we have seen situations where when it comes out that somebody is being considered for removal in order to prove that that what's really unfolding here is the tale of a senior government official possibly courting contempt of court. It's about an FBI director potentially lying to Congress and judges beginning to push back against those falsehoods. When federal judges get fed up with being manipulated by Trump's team, they're not shy about wielding their contempt authority against high-ranking officials. So, when you see the headline about Kash Patel's arrest being locked in, It speaks volumes about the legal trouble he might be entering. If a federal judge determines that Patel is not complying, well, things could get pretty serious. So, it turns out that the judge in charge can actually hold Kash Patel in contempt of court for ignoring the orders to release the Epstein files. And if he keeps pushing back against what the court says, the judge has the power to issue a contempt ruling, which could lead to fines or even jail time. Federal judges don't take kindly to senior government officials misrepresenting court orders, and they're making it clear that Patel can't just hide behind fake legal excuses indefinitely. The law is pretty clear about the need for transparency, and if Patel continues to defy that, the judges are ready to take action. What's really telling here is that Patel's credibility is seriously at stake. He stepped in as the FBI director with promises of no cover-ups or missing documents, and that he would leave no stone unturned in the hunt for the truth. But now he's the one holding back documents and not being fully honest with Congress about why. He claims that court orders are stopping him from releasing these files, but the reality is those orders don't actually prevent him from doing so. He's twisting the law to fit his narrative, which could lead to contempt charges if he doesn't change course. Now, here's where it gets even messier. Before Patel took on the role of FBI director, he was chatting on a right-wing podcast, openly saying that the Epstein files weren't being released because of the people linked to them. He actually stated that the names on that list were the reason for the delay. Fast forward to now, and Congress confronted him with that video, asking why, if that's the case, he hasn't taken any steps to change that situation. Unsurprisingly, his response wasn't convincing at all. Patel has been trapped in his own words. He acknowledged that he originally said the files were being withheld to protect powerful individuals, and yet now he finds himself in the hot seat. Asked why he's still keeping them under wraps. His excuse about court orders doesn't hold up either because the judges are making it clear that he could release those files anytime he wants. To put this into perspective, back in November 2025, Trump signed the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which requires both the Justice Department and the FBI to make all related files public. So, yeah, there's a lot going on here with Patel in these files, and it's not looking good for him. So, there was this law that Congress passed, which Trump signed, saying that all the files should be made public within 30 days. The rules are pretty straightforward. Release the files and make them available to everyone. But when the deadline rolled around, the FBI didn't share most of them. The Department of Justice released a few files, but they were heavily redacted, and less than 1% of the actual documents made it out into the open. Naturally, Congress was a bit confused, wondering why so many files were still kept under wraps when they had legislated for their release. Kash Patel, who was supposed to handle this, told Congress that court orders were stopping the release of the Epstein files. According to him, federal judges had instructed that these files stay secret, so he claimed, "I'm not allowed to release them." But here's where it gets interesting. Judge Paul Engelmeer specifically pointed out that the government is the logical entity responsible for releasing these files. He emphasized that the FBI should be making them public and not shoving them away in some dark corner. In fact, Judge Engelmeyer made it pretty clear that there wasn't a blanket court order preventing the FBI from doing the right thing. And it gets even better. Other judges have chimed in, reinforcing that there's no legitimate reason for withholding these files and that the law demands a level of transparency. Despite all this, Patel keeps insisting that there are court orders in place preventing any release. It seems what's really happening is that Patel is bending the truth. Either he's claiming there are court restrictions that don't actually exist, or he's taking some very limited court restrictions on certain documents and misrepresenting them to apply to everything. When Congress pressed him on this, things heated up a bit. Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman, who used to be a prosecutor, asked Patel straightforwardly, "What court orders are stopping you from releasing witness interview statements taken by the FBI?" And let's be real, Patel didn't have a solid response because Goldman was on to something. Those court orders don't prevent that kind of release. Goldman, who's had a decade of experience as a prosecutor, pushed further, wanting to pinpoint exactly what the court orders were preventing him from sharing. In a bit of a defensive move, Patel retorted with, Do you know how court orders work? It was almost comical considering Goldman clearly knows his stuff. It's pretty wild how things unfolded, so Goldman really understands what court orders mean and what they can and can't do. There was this moment when Democratic Congressman Jaime Racen pulled up a video of Kash Patel from back when he wasn't the FBI director yet. He was chatting on a right-wing podcast about why the Epstein list hasn't been released. Patel straight up answered that it's because of the people on that list, suggesting they're trying to protect influential figures. Racine played that clip and put Patel on the spot, pointing out that Patel acknowledges the real reason for the secrecy, but then tries to say court orders are the issue. Ouch. No solid answers from Patel because he got caught in a slip-up. He basically admitted those files have been kept under wraps for political motivations, but now he's shifting the blame to court orders. Here's the kicker. If Patel is breaking federal law by hiding files that he's supposed to release, that's a serious crime. And if he's lying to Congress about it, that adds another layer of trouble. On top of that, if he's twisting what court orders actually say, that could land him in contempt. Judges have some serious power. They can hold people in contempt, impose fines, or even jail someone until they comply with a court order. They don't mess around, so now federal judges are paying close attention. They've got their eyes glued to Patel, seeing him claim that court orders are blocking file releases, while knowing the law demands otherwise. They know Congress is demanding clarity, too. It's like they're sending out a clear message. We're watching you. Keep defying court orders or misrepresenting them, and we're going to take action. That's what they mean by this crushing order. They're essentially saying that there's no hiding behind fake court restrictions anymore. They know how things really are. If he keeps making false claims, contempt is on the table. It might sound intense, but it's the reality of the legal stakes he's juggling. Federal judges have a track record of jailing or finding people for not following court orders, regardless of their rank or power. If you cross that line, contempt is definitely on the horizon for you. So Patel's sitting in a pretty sticky situation right now. So here's the lowdown on what's going on with Kash Patel. It turns out he's been telling Congress some tall tales about court orders. He insists that there are restrictions preventing the release of certain files, but judges have made it clear that no such blanket restrictions actually exist. This kind of dishonesty is not just a minor issue. It's a federal crime, and Congress is taking note of it. On top of that, Patel is apparently breaking federal law. The Epstein Files Transparency Act mandates that these files be released, and if he's deliberately ignoring that requirement, he's definitely in hot water. That's another potential crime he's tangled in. What's more is that Patel seems to be misusing his position as FBI director. He has access to these files and could make them public, but for some reason he's choosing not to. Instead, he's hiding behind his title to justify keeping this information under wraps, which really isn't great to see. Then there's the matter of him possibly protecting influential individuals. Patel's own earlier comments imply that he's holding back the release of these files to shield certain people who are mentioned in them. That's a clear case of obstruction. And yes, that can also land him in trouble. Federal judges are starting to get a bit impatient with all of this. They're noticing Patel's claims about these false court restrictions and are aware of the ongoing violations of the law. They've hinted that they might resort to using contempt powers to ensure compliance. When it comes to contempt charges, these federal judges have every right to enforce them if Patel continues to defy court orders or misrepresents their content. This isn't just idle speculation. It's real judicial authority at play. In the grand scheme of things, Patel is really walking a tightrope here. He's lying to Congress, flaunting federal law, and making false claims about court restrictions, all while judges are closely watching his every move. If he doesn't alter his approach, those contempt charges could very well become a reality. And there's also that underlying loyalty issue with Trump by not releasing files that could potentially implicate Trump. Patel seems to be going above and beyond to protect him and other powerful figures. It's quite the complicated mess. Kash Patel stepped into the spotlight, promising to be open and accountable, but now he seems to be backpedaling. The judiciary has taken a stand with federal judges, making it clear that they know their orders inside and out. They've stated there's no broad restriction stopping file releases, and if he continues to twist their words, he could find himself in contempt of court. The situation with Patel is serious. He's facing significant legal trouble if he keeps dodging the judges and lying to Congress. The potential for contempt charges looms large, along with the risk of jail time, if he continues to ignore court orders and the law. When the judges dropped that harsh order, it was a clear message. They're no longer putting up with the misinformation about their directives. Patel can't hide behind made-up court rules, and if he tries to, they're prepared to hold him accountable. The big question now is whether he'll decide to change his approach. Will he start releasing the documents as he's supposed to, or will he keep defying the judicial system in Congress if he continues along this current path? Contempt charges seem inevitable. Federal judges aren't fond of being misled, nor do they appreciate when their orders are misrepresented, and they certainly have the authority to sanction such behavior. The real risk for Patel lies in this ongoing defiance. If he maintains his stance of false court claims and keeps withholding files, he'll eventually push federal judges to act. And that could be a historic moment. Can you imagine a federal judge holding the FBI director in contempt or even jailing him for flouting court orders? It would be monumental. But the judges absolutely have that power and won't hesitate to use it if it comes down to it. Right now, Patel is under the watchful eye of judges who are done with his dishonesty. He's on shaky legal ground if he persists in ignoring the law and misrepresenting what the courts have commanded. The possibility of arrest isn't a far-fetched idea. It's a real legal threat if he doesn't change course. The contempt power is a crucial tool for the judiciary designed to uphold court orders and penalize violations or falsehoods about their content. And federal judges have never been shy about exercising that power, having done so against presidents, governors, and other top officials in the past. Kash Patel is in a bit of a pickle right now. He's got to make a tough call. Either he hands over those documents as the law demands, or he risks facing some serious trouble for ignoring judges and breaking the law. It's really straightforward. He can either be open about what those files reveal and comply with court orders, or he might find himself in contempt of court. This moment is crucial because it's all about upholding the rule of law. We're talking about whether high-ranking officials can dodge accountability for lying to Congress and disregarding court orders. It's also about how judges will stand firm on their own rulings when they get flouted. Basically, it's about making sure that the law applies equally to everyone, no exceptions, even for those at the top of the government ladder. If you get how Kash Patel is twisting what the court is saying, we break down the legal risks he's facing with potential contempt charges and lying to Congress. We explain how judges enforce contempt and what that really means.